Jessica Perrin is Director of the Orange County Soil and Water Conservation District. She has a member of her staff here who she will introduce. And they're going to talk about voluntary DVA ag districts and also some of the conservation planning tools that they work with and could share with you. Thank you. You have to push the buttons.
Yes, so we will start off with Caleb Lippard and David Latta. They'll talk to you about the cost share programs that we offer in Orange County, and then I'll come back up and talk to you about the voluntary agricultural districts.
Oh, hang on just a second. The master gardeners and ag aide asked me, it was a bicycle locked to one of the signs out there. I don't know if it's somebody here or somebody else. And if they would like to have it moved off of the plans and onto the one of the like handicap signs that they're locking it. Is anybody riding on a bike? If not, we'll go searching for it. So anyway, thank you.
So like Jessica said, my name is Caleb Lippard. I work with Orange Soil and Water Conservation District. And I guess our main thing is we get money from the Department of Agriculture and we're able to reallocate that to help introduce best management practices for soil savings and water quality on farms. So we have two programs that are available. I'll talk about Ag Cost Share, and then David will come up and talk about Ag Wrap. So who is eligible for cost share? So this is from the state statute or the from the Department of Revenue and who goes through who's available for funding. So you have to have you have to be in existence for more than 3 years. You have to have and qualify with one of these: a forest management plan, file a Schedule F, a copy of the property tax showing that you're in present use value, and that'll be through the tax department, and then a farm sales tax exemption will also work. So we have different types of sediment nutrient concerns that we have. So we have sediments transported to surface waters, nutrients transported to surface waters, and then compaction and infiltration problems. That's some of the main resource concerns that we work with. And so how do we address those? So the erosion and nutrient management measures, these are some of the best management practices that we can implement to try to reduce some of the sediment that you're losing off-site and get it implemented back into your fields or your areas of concern. So that's cover crops, critical area plantings, pasture renovations, and sod-based rotation, which is like a rotational grass. You leave it in grass for X number of years or months, and then it can come back out and go back into cropland after that. And then here's a few more sediment and nutrient measures. The ag water collection system, field border, grass waterway, ag road repair, we do those quite frequently here. And then pond sediment removal is another one. And then some water quality concerns that we have. A lot of them stem around livestock and other animals that have water, surface water access. So that's sediment, manure, and nutrients transferred to water bodies. And so what can we do for that? We can help you with exclusion fencing, feeding areas, stream crossings, and heavy use areas around a watering tank for your livestock or your animals. And then we can also help manage waste. If you have a lot of waste and you need somewhere to store it or to get rid of it, we can do dry stacks or manure composting facility, and all that comes with a waste management plan that we write up for that. So I think the next is Ag Wrap, and David will come talk about that.
So my people in the back, can y'all hear me? I was a ag teacher for 13 years, so I'm more talking loud and I don't like speaking in the mic. So if y'all can hear me well in the back, I will not use the mic. So I'm gonna jump around these slides real quick, but like Caleb was talking about, we have two programs called Share and Ag Wrap. And to start off, before I start talking about Ag Wrap, this is a program with the state, the North Carolina Soil and Water Division, based off water need. And so you have to be in production, and you have to meet the eligibility that you talked about out of the bona fide farm, being one, you're based off federal tax exemption that they recognize you as being a farm. Then also with the county, with Ms. Dana Hall, that you have been verified with ag use, and then also a Schedule F form based on your most recent tax return. And then lastly, you could be in the forest management plan. Okay, so those are the start of eligibility right there. You got to check the boxes. And then also at the same time, with cost share, if you're doing one of these practices that Caleb talked about, you have to meet at least 3 years. So with ag wrap, you have to be, if you want to try to get in this program, you have to show that you've been in production at least more than 1 year. Okay. And that you also, that when we come out, we see that you're in production. We see that you're growing something. We don't want to come out and see that you're not doing anything, but you want a well. Because this program is based off water needs. You're not getting enough water. So you have to be in production. You're showing that over a year that you're growing something and that you're not meeting your water needs goals. And so typically we get calls for a well. And so with a well, we first go out, we do our due diligence before we take it to our district board, and we're seeing if you meet your goals. If you're not meeting your goals with your well, or maybe you're irrigating out of a pond, then we can move forward. And basically we want to know how much water that you're producing on your farm in a given season, whether it be in a spring, a fall season. And we take that amount of gallons that you're using in a monthly time based on that season into a water balance tool that we go through, and it justifies us with the state that, hey, you're needing assistance with water. Okay. And so typically with a given year with cost share, we have enough to help probably one person with a well. And so typically we have enough to fund one well. And with our well, if you are approved, you have to hit water. We don't, the division doesn't pay on dry wells. And so you do see livestock. We have another program with cost share that you can go through and do a livestock exclusion, that you can actually go that route, do a well and not necessarily ag wrap. But typically our vegetable producers, this is where we get hit up with our ag wrap well needs. The other thing with whoops, going the wrong way, I'm getting the justice and stuff since I'm jumping around. We do have some producers that they have a well, but they want a pond. And so the pond that typically a person's going to get, you think the ideal pond, a big beautiful pond, that's not the case. The pond that we're going to design, and actually our division engineer is going to design for that person. One, it's based on the needs. So that pond design is going to be based on the amount of gallons that producer needs. And that's going to be the shape and design and the depth that they're going to design that pond. But a pond is a regional application. And right now with the state, how that works is in the fall of the year, we might have a customer within the county producer that comes to us, they're interested. We have to go through and do what we just talked about, do our due diligence to see if improve that they need water. And then from there, we kind of move forward with our engineer, and we give them a preliminary design, and they kind of decide if they want to move forward with our regional application. Now, regional application is real tough because it's within our surrounding counties, and typically is it 2 or 3 they pick a year?
They pick one per region.
Yeah, 1 per region, but typically it might be 2 producers. But so it's real tough. You could put in, and it's based off that water needs. If you can show a large amount of water needs, you have a higher chance of maybe getting that contract. Or you might have a year that not many people are putting in, and you're awarded that contract. But you have 2 years to put that contract in. And so we also we might have some producers that have ag sediment removal, they have a pond, but they have sediment that's been put in there. So we do a sediment removal so they can have more space for water storage. Some other things that we can help in, maybe it's a producer that has a well and they just need a little bit more storage capacity. So necessarily it's not always digging a pond, putting in a well. It might be a storage capacity. So they might need a storage tank. And so that's one thing that AgWrap can help with that, is put the storage tank in, and also conservation irrigation systems. So that's something else that we can call share on. And so over here, and also modifying any kind of overhead irrigation. So this program is more on trying to do the most so we can serve and use water efficiently. And again, it's based off of resource need. And it's both programs, we have to show a reason why a producer gets rewarded with a contract. So, but that's, y'all might have some questions about AgWrap. And if you do, we can get to them after Jessica gets done with hers.
One quick question while you're up there. Occasionally around the state, I've worked around the state in other positions before. Sometimes withdrawal water from that creek is an option for agricultural use. Do you have any?
So not with AgWrap.
Okay,
but yeah, some producers, they might be able to do that.
There is one, it's called the base flow interceptor.
Yeah.
So they'll put a stream side pickup.
Yeah.
Essentially, I've never done one. I've
It's
never talked to an engineer that's done one.
It's been one done in this county, and that conservation is already retired, and it's in one county, but that wasn't done with call share. It's something done outside.
I was just curious.
Any other questions? Just
I do need a microphone, so can everybody hear me? Okay, good. So just want to separate in your mind. So what David and Caleb just talked to you guys about are cost share programs. They provide financial incentives to help you all implement something on your farm. This program is not financially based. There's no fees to participate, and you don't get paid anything to participate. So we go back. So even back in the 80s, across the state, they were seeing a need for farmland preservation. So in 1985, we actually had a representative from Orange County, Ann Barnes, that introduced a bill to the state legislature. And then in 1986, that bill was ratified, the act to establish policies to preserve farmland. So the reason this was important is it provided a framework so that county governments, municipal governments could adopt local ordinances to create the voluntary ag district programs across the state. So then in 1992, Orange County adopted the local ordinance to create VADs, voluntary ag districts in our county. So the purpose that they established in the general statute, they said that the purpose of the agricultural districts was to increase the identity and pride in the agricultural community and its way of life, and to decrease the likelihood of legal disputes, such as nuisance actions between farm owners and their neighbors, and other negative impacts on properly managed farms. So in my mind, the VAD program has two main missions: heritage and pride, and then notification. You want your neighbors and your future neighbors to know this is an active farm, and they should expect everything that goes with that. Early night activities, sounds, animals, chemical applications, clear cutting, whatever you need to do to run your operation. Some of the benefits, as part of the Voluntary Ag District program, once someone is approved and enrolled, we provide signage. You've probably seen them driving around the county. We provide the sign for free. We put it up for free. We also put it in the Orange County GIS mapping system online. So if someone is looking at property in the county, if it's within a half-mile radius of a VAD parcel, a note pops up and lets them know, hey, you're looking at land that's within a half-mile of a VAD farm. They've changed some of the language. It does not provide blanket protection from nuisance lawsuits, but it may provide protection for nuisance lawsuits. It definitely doesn't hurt to be able to say that you were there first and that you provided notification that you were there and you were in operation. One of the other provisions is that if there's proposed condemnation of VAD land, let's say DOT wants to put in a road, they want to condemn part of your farm for that road, it triggers a public hearing process. It may not stop the road from being put in, but it does at least trigger that public hearing. There can be a conversation. And I've definitely heard of some cases where, that conversation means that the way that the road is put in, the farm can still be operational. They will work with the farmers. This is less common, but is still provided in the ordinance. You can have the suspension or they can waive water and sewer assessments if they're bringing in water and sewer, and you don't want to be connected to the utility. And I will go ahead and state, so these benefits are for what I call regular VADs. So for a VAD, that would require a 10-year conservation agreement that's revocable. If you want to be removed from the program, you can be removed at any time with a written request. So we also have enhanced VADs. This is a much lower percentage of our program participants. That requires an irrevocable 10-year conservation agreement. It's much more similar to like a term conservation easement. So once you sign that, that is valid for that 10-year period and can't be removed. But it does have some additional benefits. I'm not going to go through all of them. One of the main ones is that you'd be eligible for a higher cost share rate for like ag cost share or ag wrap. It's typically 75%. If you're enhanced VAD, you can request up to 90%. We see a lot of folks that go for the enhanced VAD if they are planning to go for a conservation easement. It typically provides like additional breaking points for some of the funding sources for conservation easements. So eligibility, how do you know if you qualify? So you do need to be in the unincorporated area of the county. You can't be like in Hillsborough, Hillsborough, city proper. You need to meet the bona fide farm. I know we've talked about that a lot today. We have minimum size requirements. So you need at least 1 contiguous acre of horticulture or agricultural land, or at least 20 acres of forestry land. We would also work with you. You would need a current conservation plan for your agricultural operation, or a forest management plan if you have forestry, or both if you have both land uses on your property. And then, of course, the conservation agreement that I mentioned, the 10-year conservation agreement where you are stating that you intend to keep that in farmland, forestry, or both for the next 10 years. So the process, if you're interested in the program, so definitely reach out to me. You would put in an application. It's only a couple of pages. I would review the application, reach out to you, set up a site visit. I'd come out, learn about the operation, put together a conservation plan for your ag operations. If you have forestry, you provide a copy of your forest management plan. We put together some maps, take photos, and then the applications go to the Ag Preservation Board that we have here in Orange County. They meet every other month. They review the applications for eligibility, and they recommend applications for approval. From there, the Board of County Commissioners has the final say. It typically goes to them twice a year in the spring and the fall. And if the Board of County Commissioners approves it, from there, I'd work with you on your 10-year conservation agreement, get that signed, and then work with you to set up the sign on your property, figure out where you wanted it to go, and have everything established in GIS for your parcel. And that's an image of our VAD sign there. So this map is a little outdated. This is from spring 2025. We've had a couple of more VAD farms added since then. But you'll see the light green is the enhanced VAD parcels and the dark green is our VAD parcels. As of right now, we have 162 farms enrolled. about 15,000 acres in the VAD and about 2,800 acres in the enhanced VADs. So like I said, if you're interested in the program, reach out, let me know. I'd be happy to speak with you further. And I think we have time for questions. If
Yep.
anybody has
Well,
questions
got about 10
for
minutes
David,
left.
Caleb, or myself.
Does the VAD program, like the land is transferred, does it continue when the land is transferred? Like a purchase or?
So I don't know, I do see, Mr. Brandon is still here, and in the last few years, there was actually some guidance in an article that was released that, so the enhanced VADs, it runs with the land, because it's recorded agreement, it's not revocable. For the regular VADs, when land changes hands, I have been trying to work with folks to reestablish that conservation agreement where the new landowners sign if they want to continue in the program, or remove it if the new landowners don't want to stay in, or if the land use changes so that they're no longer eligible.
Other questions? If not, thank you. Oh, sorry.
What happens at the end of the 10 years? Can you re-enroll or does it automatically re-enroll or what happens?
It automatically re-enrolls you until you request. So basically for the regular VADs, you're in it until you request to be removed, it automatically renews. For the enhanced, it's a smaller time frame that it's going to automatically keep renewing. So if you wanted to be removed from the enhanced, we just need to find the right window to not have it roll over.
But it would.
Yes, the agreements do automatically renew.